There are criminals who stand trial. There are those who get acquitted. And then there are the ones who walk away from justice, coldly, cynically, and untouched until the day they die. Today, we look at the top individuals who took part in mass killings, wartime purges, deportations, yet never faced real punishment. These are the men hunted across continents, but loopholes, politics, and war allowed them to slip away. Let's begin with number 10. Number 10. Sandor Capiro. The officer acquitted despite his own admissions. Capiro was accused of personally ordering the execution of 36 civilians during the raid on Novi Sad, a Serbian city occupied by Hungary. He admitted to taking part in the roundup, yet a Budapest court acquitted him due to insufficient evidence. Not even pressure from international organizations or investigations by the Simon Wiesenthal Center changed the verdict. Capiro died at the age of 96, without serving a single day of punishment. Number 9. Leon de Grelle, the Nazi who died a millionaire. Founder of the Belgian fascist Rex Party, volunteer in the Waffen-SS, and devoted admirer of Adolf Hitler. His own country sentenced him to death for fighting alongside the Third Reich. But de Grelle simply boarded a bomber, fled to Francois, Spain, and built a new life. He made millions in construction, openly supported neo-Nazis, and denied the Holocaust until his final days. He died in Malaga at 87 years old, never once sitting in a courtroom. Number 8. Ante Pavelic, the creator of the Ustaše who escaped the entire world. Ante Pavelic was one of the most brutal collaborators of the Second World War. Leader of the Croatian Ustaše, architect of concentration camps, organizer of mass killings of Serbs and Jews. He dreamed of a pure Catholic state and turned that dream into terror. After the fall of the Axis, Pavelic never saw a courtroom. He was aided by networks inside the Vatican and quietly fled to Argentina. There he lived comfortably under a friendly dictatorship, without a trace of remorse. Even after an assassination attempt left him grievously wounded, Pavelic managed to escape again, this time to Spain, where he died in 1959. A state butcher who never faced justice. 7. Laszlo Csátáry, the officer who hid behind the mask of a model immigrant. Laszlo Csátáry had been sentenced to death back in 1948 for participating in deportations and brutal treatment of prisoners. But he simply vanished. Csátáry fled to Canada, gained citizenship, and lived quietly for decades, as if none of it had ever happened. When the Simon Wiesenthal Center finally traced him, Canada stripped his passport and placed him under house arrest while prosecutors prepared a new trial. Justice, however, was too slow again. He died before the court could begin. One more detail. Csátáry never denied his anti-Semitic beliefs. He only denied his guilt. Number 6. Gustav Wagner, the Beast of Sobibor, who was finally reached by revenge. Gustav Wagner was one of the most brutal SS officers. Prisoners called him the Beast and the Wolf for his sadism and the pleasure he took in killing. He served as the deputy commandant of the Sobibor extermination camp, where hundreds of thousands were murdered. After the war, Wagner escaped punishment. He fled through Nazi rat lines and ended up in Brazil under a false identity. Multiple countries demanded his extradition, but Brazil refused, claiming insufficient grounds. In 1980, Wagner was found dead, a knife buried in his chest. Officially, it was ruled a self-inflicted death, but many believe it was vengeance. There is a long-standing theory that a Sobibor survivor tracked him down and delivered the sentence the courts never did. 5. Ludolf von Alvensleben, the SS officer who was helped into a new life. Ludolf von Alvensleben was accused of participating in mass killings of Poles, Ukrainians, and Jews. Units under his command carried out executions, reprisals, and public massacres. But justice never caught up with him. In 1945, he escaped British custody, simply walked out of the camp and vanished. Later, he resurfaced in Argentina, living peacefully under a new surname. A Polish court sentenced him to death in absentia, but it made no difference. He lived a long life, ran businesses, and died without ever facing a tribunal. A man responsible for thousands of deaths, who ended his days as a respectable farmer in South America. Number 4. Aribert Heim, Dr. Death, who died a free man. Aribert Heim was one of the most terrifying Nazi criminals, an SS physician who performed monstrous operations without anesthesia, removing organs from living prisoners, injecting gasoline into hearts, experimenting with acids. Surviving his treatment was impossible. In 1945, Heim was detained by American forces, but due to clerical confusion, he simply disappeared from the camp. The SS officer known as the Devil of Mauthausen began a new life under a false name. He hid in Germany, then moved to Egypt. Lived like an ordinary retiree, rented a small apartment, read books, shopped at the local market. International organizations hunted him for decades, but he always stayed one step ahead. Heim died in Cairo on the 10th of August 1992, quietly, from illness. No trial, no verdict. Not a single day of punishment. Number 3. Walter Rauff, the Nazi honored with a Sieg Heil funeral. Walter Rauff oversaw Europe-wide extermination operations in 1942 to 43. He supervised mobile gas vans, the very trucks where victims were killed with exhaust fumes. After the war, Rauff escaped first to Italy, then to Chile, where local authorities protected him. He worked as an advisor to Syrian intelligence and avoided every attempt to extradite him to Germany. When Rauff died in 1984, dozens of supporters attended his funeral. They shouted Nazi slogans aloud and raised their arms in the Hitler salute in public, right above the coffin of a man responsible for mass murder. Rauff remained a symbol of absolute impunity, a criminal shielded until the very end. Fire number 2, Alois Brunner, the architect of the Holocaust who mocked justice. Alois Brunner was the right hand of Adolf Eichmann and one of the key organizers of Jewish deportations across Europe. He sent more than 120,000 people to their deaths. In 1945, Brunner escaped by exploiting a clerical mix-up. He lived under a false identity, even worked for the United States Army, and later moved to Syria, where he received full government protection. Over decades of pursuit, he was sentenced to death twice in absentia. Mossad sent him letter bombs. He lost an eye and several fingers, but survived. Until his final years, he told journalists he regretted nothing. According to intelligence reports, Brunner died around 2010, safe, in bed, never having faced a court. Number 1, Joseph Mengele, the angel of death who drowned, a free man. Joseph Mengele is one of the most monstrous criminals of the 20th century. The physician of Auschwitz who experimented on children, pregnant women, twins. He decided who went to the gas chambers and who became material for his science. After the war, Mengele fled using Nazi escape networks, the so-called rat lines. He lived in Argentina, then Paraguay and Brazil under numerous false identities. Mossad hunted him for years, but every operation came too late. In 1979, Mengele drowned while swimming in the ocean. No trial, no punishment, not a trace of remorse. Each of these 10 men should have spent the rest of their lives in prison. Instead, they found loopholes, relied on allies, hid behind false names, and proved how long the world was willing to ignore obvious evil. Some died of old age, some under state protection, some were buried under Nazi salutes. But they all share one thing: justice never reached them. History remembers them not as heroes, but as reminders that evil can survive for decades when no one stops it.